Hey sketchy friends! Today's video I am going to show you where I live, kind of, because I don't really live here, but I kind of do. Yeah, it's where I grew up and it's where my family still live right now. I have been visiting for the last few months, just waiting to sort of sort things out here before my kind of final move and fairly permanent move to South Africa. So I thought I'd do a little tribute video to the fair little village of Headley in Hampshire. This village was actually mentioned in the Doomsday Book. I think it was called Halledge, which is pretty cool. It's definitely got some history. I've got an entire little book here about Headley, Little Headley. It's a very small village, and I distinctly remember complaining to my parents that we lived in the middle of nowhere and it was really boring and there was no one around, etc., etc. when I was a kid. But just look at these rolling fields and the kind of beautiful little English village that we grew up in. It's pretty special. It's pretty cool. I'm leaving here for South Africa in 3 weeks' time. So yeah, I just thought I'd get out and I'd do a bit sketching around Headley and take you guys with me. So this is the village church. This is All Saints Church, and I think it dates back as far as like the 1300s or something. I think it was burnt down after that sometime, so a lot of the parts of the church are more from like 18 something or other, 1850, 1890, something like that. So, but yeah, just knowing that there's a few bits and bobs in this building that date back as far as the 1300s is pretty insane. Now, I've gone for quite a loose, quick sketch with this church. I really didn't want to sit here for hours and draw everything. I really wanted to capture the spirit of it really quickly, and actually just before I went out, not really intentionally, but I just happened to be looking through Liz Steele's book on sketching architecture, which I mention in my 5 books that got me hooked on urban sketching video, if any of you guys have seen that. And I don't know, subconsciously I think I took some of the advice to heart, and I feel like this sketch has definitely got a bit of the spirit of Liz Steele in it actually. I was really kind of happy with how it was sort of forming up. I don't know, I veered between not being happy with it and then being happy with it. But yeah, so I'm just kind of keeping it loose. I'm trying to get the key landmarks in, so the shape of the church, some of the shadow on the ledges, and just a few key pieces of foliage in the actual scene. And you can see there before that I sort of wet the sky and just put in some dollops of blue and just kept that pretty loose as well. And I drew the outlines of the gravestones, and as I was going through this sketch, I think I just realised actually just wanted to keep them negative space, and that it was gonna look okay doing that, you know, because I had the key features of the church in, and then I was really just trying to up the contrast on some of this foliage in front of it. So trying not to go overboard and draw all the details is like really difficult for me. So I was really trying to restrain myself, and there was many moments where I added some paint and I was like, oh no, God, that's awful. No, no, no. And then I looked at it again. I was like, actually, no, I like this. And then I looked at it again and go, no, it's horrible. It's childlike. I don't like it. And onwards and onwards. So I'm sure you guys have the same. I feel because there's some striking foliage like that big bush on the right, it just kind of really, it was easy to get a sense of like a recognisable sketch of this scene. So for this subject matter, I think this approach worked really well. And I was really happy with this sketch, and it didn't take me too long at all, actually. So I carried on walking around, and I just got to the epicentre of Headley Village, the pub, obviously. And this is the holly bush. And I was struggling to film here. I couldn't really get my camera in a good angle. It wasn't great at the church either, so I decided just to draw and then film it a bit and then draw and then film a bit, so I hope that's not too annoying for you guys. But yeah, I got the pencil sketch done. I was a bit worried that I'd done it too high up on my page, but actually looking at it, you know, it kind of came out all right. And then you'll see in a minute what I added to it at the bottom, which kind of made the composition much better. So I'll point that out in a minute. Anyway, so yeah, I've sketched it out in pencil. It's quite a complicated building with angles and perspective and whatnot going all over the place. So I did sketch in pencil quite a lot more. So I've added that high street sign at the bottom because that was in front of me, and I think it really adds something quite nice to the sketch. I think if it didn't have that sign in it, it would just look a bit empty. So I'm really happy with that decision. I think it really balances out the composition quite nicely. So it took me ages actually. This was the opposite to the church one. I sat in front of the pub maybe for an hour and a half or maybe even 2 hours because, you know, faffing and stuff. And yeah, and I was like, God, I just can't get to, I had things to do. It was almost dinner time. I was like, I just can't get to painting this here in time. So I actually took it home and I painted it at home. So I thought and here I could film it properly for you guys. So I thought I'd just share the time-lapse process of me painting this, and I thought it might be interesting. I'm actually just using a water brush at the moment, and I swing between liking and using the water brush, and it can work, and it's great on location. It's really convenient. But then sometimes I don't like it. Like the front of the pub just looks really washed out to me, and actually if I'd done that with a proper brush, I don't feel like it would have had the same effect. But yeah, anyway, they are fantastic for sketching on location, so I highly recommend them. I know a lot of people don't get on with them though, so it's definitely a personal choice, and I don't use one very much, but now and again I use it. I just want to give a quick shout out to my patrons, Kathy, Sylvia, Bettina, Christine and Simona. Thanks for being awesome. And if you guys want to check out my Patreon page, please go over to patreon.com/urbansketchingworld. I've got a bunch of behind the scenes stuff and some real-time demonstrations as well, so do go and check it out if you would like to. So I'm really liking the kind of strong tree colours in the background. I think it frames the pub really nicely for what otherwise could be quite an orangey browny sketch. You know, the greenery of the trees really helps frame the pub and make it look a bit more interesting. I'm just adding in some bricks just very vaguely with the brush. You know, I don't want to go through the whole building doing that, but I think sometimes just adding a few can really help, you know, lead the eye to see the bricks all over the building, if you know what I mean. This front porch part was really tricky to draw. I was really struggling with that aspect of the pub. So going in now, adding these heavy blacks, again, really just makes everything pop quite nicely. And also I know I want to put some writing on these boards as well, so I want to make them as black as possible so that my white gel pen shows up quite nicely. And now I'm just going in with, these are some of my favourite tools to use actually, are the Faber-Castell Pit Artist pens. I've got the collection or the set of 6 shades of grey, and the 3 warm greys and 3 cool greys. So I really like going in to a watercolour sketch and just adding a bit of shadow and pop with those pens. They're really, really nice to use. And I'm putting a bit of purple on the ground just to kind of counteract that orangey brown kind of colour on the pub. Just a bit of colour theory, you know, just trying to use some somewhat complementary colours just to kind of balance everything out a bit. And then also not necessarily what was there exactly, but I just decided to add some foliage in the right hand side as well, again just to balance the composition out a bit. And I think I decided that the ground was just a bit too light, so I wanted to come in with a bit of a darker colour, and there was a bit more shadow on the left hand side, so just wanted to emphasise that a bit. And I'm trying to come in with the Posca marker, but I know this is like optimistic because again my background's just not too dark enough for the road markings to show up, but they're in there a bit, you can kind of see them, so that's okay. And now I'm just adding in some details back with my fine liner again, just stuff that I missed or was waiting till the end to draw in. I think this really adds the finishing touches to the pub, really. I think it finishes things off quite nicely. So typical little English village where the main landmarks are the church and the pub. There are few other bits around, but that's, in terms of sketching architecture, those are our 2 landmarks. So I really hope you enjoyed seeing those 2 things. And it was nice to be able to show you guys my village before I leave for the exotic plains of South Africa. So do check out my book, Sketchy Adventures Around the World, if you get a chance. It's a 60-page PDF of over 130 of my ink and watercolour sketches from 3 years worth of travels around the world. And I also have a course, Sketchy Adventures in Ink and Watercolour, that you can check out as well. All the links are in the description below. As mentioned, I've got a Patreon page as well you can check out. You can join the 7-day urban sketching at home challenge. Everything is in the description below, so do check it out. So I hope you've enjoyed this one, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.